Commission. We tried to secure a larger conference room, but the city has very few large conference rooms, and we were unable to move this meeting to a larger facility. I'm sorry that it's so cramped and it's also so warm. About a year ago, we lost the capacity to control our own air conditioning. It's now controlled by a computer up on the 7th floor. This is the best we could do. I'm really sorry. And we'll have to suffer through it together.
1600 to 06 and 1608 to 10 East Burke Street. This nomination proposes to designate the exterior of the church building at 1600 to 06 and 1608 to 10 East Burke Street as historic and listed on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. A nomination contends that the property satisfies criteria for designation A, C, E, H, and J. St. Laurentius Church was designed by prominent ecclesiastical architect Edwin Forrest Durang and built between 1885 and 1890 for the Polish Catholic community. The building is located in the National Register eligible for this town's historic district. The staff recommends that the property at 1600 to 06 and 1608 to 10 East Burke Street satisfies criteria for designation A, C, E, H, and J.
Okay, so I don't want to reread you a nomination, so I'm just going to go through a few of the slides. My name is Oscar Beisert. I'm one of the nominators for St. Laurentius Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church. Let me go to the next. So I basically just want to sort of walk you through the areas of significance. One of the main areas of importance here is that the building represents the first sort of organization of the Polish community in Philadelphia. There were Polish immigrants to Philadelphia a number of years before this church was founded, but this was the first sort of organization on that behalf. Okay. Okay, criterion A. And this is basically discussing sort of the transition of the Fishtown area became home to a number of Polish immigrants. The immigrants actually came from various neighborhoods all over the city to go to St. Laurentius once it was founded. So it really and truly represents the first organization. There had been, they had attended, I think it was St. Boniface on Norris Square, and there was some conflicts that arose in the early 1880s. And in 1885, they raised enough money to start construction of their own church. This is just an original document where they wrote the diocese asking for their own church building. And I've just included a few photos because I think it's really important that we humanize this issue as well, because this is a building that represents a community, and it's a community that is still intact. So I just have some photos of that. One area of one of the criterion is criterion A, that it's a unique location, singular physical characteristic representing an established and familiar visual feature. The building certainly is a prominent feature in Fishtown. It's arguably one of the most important churches in the area. You see it there on the left. This is from the Alma burial ground.
Right, he's just, I think he's showing visual.
Yeah, and I'm just showing how the church fits into into its context as a important feature. As well as under criterion J, that it represents the cultural and social and historic heritage of the Polish community in Philadelphia. It was the first, again, as I said, it was the first Polish Catholic church. You can see here you have servicemen. It's incredible, actually, the amount of organization that the church has had over time. All of the different committees and sub-organizations. The Historical Society of Pennsylvania has a number of files on the subject. These are just a few examples of the layers of the history. Criterion C, there's, I don't really need to say much about the architectural significance of this building, but it was designed by Edwin Forrest Durang, who is arguably one of the most important ecclesiastical architects of his day. He didn't just design in Philadelphia, he also designed for Catholic University in DC. We have, and that would relate to Criterion E, and Criterion C would be the architecture itself. You see here on the right, the church with the first rectory built, and you can tell that the second and the school haven't been built yet. And then this is a rendering for their full completion of the entire complex. And then this is just another sort of fun image. Do you guys want to?
My name is AJ Thompson. I'm an attorney. I'm also a Holy Name parishioner. I just came from a kindergarten graduation at St. Laurentius School, less than 50 feet from the church that I think you're about to hear is in imminent danger of collapse. About 150 people were in this structure. So you can take that for what it's worth. We have a large number of people here today, obviously. Not everybody can make it. We do have a series of people who would like to speak, and I'd like to have them come up and speak to you. If that's okay right now?
Is that okay with everybody? How many people are interested in speaking?
Solely on behalf of St. Laurentius, the nominator, or?
So this would be on behalf of the nominator, correct?
Okay, and we'll save the rebuttal for what has to be said. That's okay?
Not sure that this has that formal of a.
Doesn't seem that way, no. So, yeah, so if ever we just have a show of hands, who wants to speak?
I also have some slides.
And I would just like to make one point before we, get on, and that is Michael Phillips on behalf of Holy Name of Jesus Parish. And that is that this is solely related to the exterior. I know that there were some photographs of the interior within the nomination petition and that are being presented now, but the nomination has nothing to do with the interior, and I would actually ask that that not be considered for purposes of this nomination.
Yeah, it won't be considered.
You took everything out of it.
It should be considered by the commission in that it represents the cultural touchstone of the community for the building. And whether or not you decide that it's designatable, it's certainly worth your consideration for its historic value. So we're maybe not asking you to designate that today, but we are asking you to consider the fact that this artwork was placed in this building because of its significance, historic.
Right, so we're not designating anything.
Exactly.
It would have to be nominated
Right.
separately.
He's asking
Yeah.
He's asking you not to consider it, but I'm asking you to consider it with respect to the nomination, not to the designation.
That's the terms of contact.
Exactly. That's all. I do have some PowerPoint slides here.
Well, so, okay, you and then we'll go through the presentation, and then we'll start in this direction from the folks who are interested in speaking.
There were two periods when artwork was put in the 30s and then in the late 50s and early 60s.
Could you identify yourself?
Father John Seibel, pastor of Holy Name and owner of St. Laurentius Church.
You're the owner?
The parish is the owner.
The parish has passed on.
Holy Name of Jesus Parish is the owner.
Whoever's pastor there.
We're just here to talk about the history of the parish. We're not here to talk about
But I
ownership.
don't want to, if you're talking about artwork and you want to know that there were several periods of redoing the artwork inside.
Okay, I mean, we are not gonna be considering the designation on the basis of the artwork inside.
Okay.
It's going to be
Yeah,
a cultural
we're not
touchstone.
asking you to.
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
we didn't say that.
Your presentation.
So this is, some of our slides. While this, began as a Polish parish, and it's significant from that perspective, it's clearly been part of the larger Fishtown community. One thing that we want to emphasize from a historical perspective is, Fishtown was the home base for the anti-Catholic riots in the 1840s and 50s in Philadelphia that began in our community, that is Fishtown now, and stretched over to the Kensington community, eventually erupting in the destruction of St. Michael's Church. St. Laurentius is on Burke Street and Memphis Street. Obviously not a high-profile area. It's actually just in the middle of the neighborhood. It shows you how hard it was for Catholics at the time to acquire a place to build a church like this. One of the things that we want to emphasize is that this is the first Catholic structure in a neighborhood of a Protestant, things were different back then, obviously, but in a stronghold where people who saved the money to build this structure had to do so, not just from a financial perspective, but kind of risking their livelihoods and their lives. So it doesn't appear on Girard Ave or Frankfurt Avenue or a large thoroughfare. It appears at Berks and Memphis because that's the best they could do. So I just want that to be, when we talk about it from 1882, be highlighted to the committee. Go to the next slide. Oscar kind of touched on this, so it's part of our document, so we'll move to the next one. This is how it got to where it is, where it started out in 1882, moves forward to the point where in 1890, a school was established. We are in our 125th year as a school. We actually fought against the Archdiocese to stay open twice. We're victorious, and I think that it goes a lot to the Archdiocese understanding that this is an important parish in the school and the community. But we've continued that legacy today, and it's continuing as we speak because the kids are still in school. You go to the next slide. I know you're not supposed to look at this, but these are some of the things that these people, and I think that's something I want the committee to emphasize here, as we're going up against something that's telling you no. This came from people who sacrificed their funds to do this. This is not a government-sponsored entity. Think about somebody building something like this today. It's not going to happen from people's pays, without a grant, without this or that. So we are torch holders of the legacy of the people who scraped together $38 to put down to do this, and eventually bought the property and put it in trust to the Archdiocese. In trust to the Archdiocese. Go to the next slide. You can kind of pay no attention to this. These frescoes from 1910, don't look at that. And I think that's what I'd like the commission to focus on, the human aspect of this and where we are 130 years from the founding of it, 125 years from the construction of it. You may hear from some individuals who I see here about the decrepit state of this, at least in their opinion. But I do want you to point out that up until they made their decision, hundreds of people attended worship services in this building and could still do so today. You go to the next slide. We have Justin Spivey here. He's here. I know he's here. Okay. Yes. Justin is an engineer. He reviewed both the O'Donnell, Nacarado, and Rick Ortega engineer reports with respect to what I believe the Archdiocese is going to bring up. I don't believe that's before this commission, and actually having sat through the last presentation, I don't believe it's your determination today whether or not the criteria for historical designation are impacted by this man's report or Mr. Spivey's report or anything else. What we do have is criteria that we need to make, and your staff actually agrees with that nomination. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our litany of people here who would like to say something on his behalf. So we can start over here.
Can we just move sort of in an orderly fashion from over here to?
I'm not going to speak, I just did your PowerPoint. Can Susan talk? She's sitting down.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Deb, you want to go first?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me preface my remarks by saying I'm honorary consul of the Republic of Poland for southeastern Pennsylvania. So my remarks are from the perspective of a Polish government representative and the value of something like St. Laurentius to Poland. And at the time of the establishment of St. Laurentius Parish, known as the Mother Church for Roman Catholics of Polish descent in Philadelphia, Poland had been partitioned by Prussia, Russia, and Austria and ceased to exist on the map of Europe. But it did reside in the hearts and minds of those who emigrated, those who had the foresight, the dedication, and the will to found St. Laurentius, where they could practice their faith in their own language and preserve and foster their rich Christian heritage. As you know, constructed between 1885 and 1890, the building stands as the oldest and most prominent symbol of the immigration and settlement of Polish Catholics in Philadelphia. Over these hundreds of years of Polish immigration to the United States, the Polish government has continued to rely on the Polish diaspora to maintain, to preserve, and share that rich Polish cultural heritage outside of Poland, and is most grateful to St. Laurentius's dedication to the rich traditions, family values, and strong faith that has been exemplified. Secondly, as we already heard, St. Laurentius merits an historic designation due to its master architectural design, as well as being the work of a master architect, Edwin Forrest Durang, the eminent ecclesiastical designer within the realm of Philadelphia Catholicity. The church spires are readily recognizable landmark in Philadelphia's Fishtown neighborhood, and may we continue to have that beacon in the Fishtown neighborhood. Thank you.
Your name, please?
Deborah Majka, M-A-J-K-A.
So,
You're next if you want to go. Okay.
I'm David S. Straub, I'm an architect in the city, but in this capacity, I represent the organization Save Our Sites, SOS, an historical and urban preservation organization. We have approximately 200 members. In our May general membership meeting, we unanimously voted to support the designation